Okay, so we have installed the Apache package and copied over the HTML file. Now the next step is to check whether the Apache service is actually running or not. To identify whether the service is running or not, we can execute curl command on the local Ansible host. Curl node01. This command will try to make a HTTP request to node01 and fetch the default HTML document. And the expectation is that we should get a valid HTML response back. That is, of course, if the Apache service is running on node01. And we can see our curl command is not actually returning us anything, which means Apache may not be started on node01. Let's cancel this command and investigate. Type Ctrl+C. Now let's SSH into the node once again and try to issue the same curl command on the local host. Curl localhost. And you can see we got a valid response back with the HTML content from our default document. So Apache Web Server seems to be working fine when we make the request locally on node01. Can you think of a reason why we were not able to make a successful request from our Ansible host? Well, remember these nodes are running on AWS Cloud, and each node is protected by AWS security groups. So most likely scenario here is that we need to open up some ports on the security groups so that our nodes can talk to each other. So if you guessed AWS security groups, then kudos to you, you are correct. This is happening most probably because of access restriction within the AWS cloud. You see, AWS EC2 instances by default are locked down for security purposes. If we want to allow some network traffic through the instances, we will need to explicitly configure the firewall or the security group for our EC2 instance. If we configure AWS security group and open up the HTTP ports, then AWS network will allow us to make an HTTP request from our Ansible host to the target nodes. Okay, let's log out of node01. Try to ping it from our Ansible host. Ping node01. So we cannot even ping it. Now let's configure our AWS security group and come back to this. We will switch back to EC2 dashboard and click on Security Groups. Here we will make changes in the AWS security group. We can see there is already an existing rule to allow port 22, which is for SSH connectivity. SSH is allowed by default when we set up an AWS EC2 instance. Now we have also added a rule for port 80 so that it allows HTTP traffic through as well. So once we configure our AWS security group like so, the expectation is that this should take care of the issue. Now switch back to the terminal. Now we should be able to get a valid response with our web page from node01. Let's execute curl node01 on the Ansible host. Okay, cool, we are able to see our web page. So that means Apache 2 service is running fine on node01, and we are successfully able to make a HTTP request to it from our Ansible node.